Welcome to Good for Bitcoin, a weekly show recorded live every Friday where we recap the top events of the week and talk about everything that is good for Bitcoin. If it's built on Bitcoin, then it's good for Bitcoin. Let's get started.
Content shared on this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, or legal advice. The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and do not reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, or company. We encourage you to conduct your own research and consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions.
GM, everybody. This is Brandon, social media manager here at Trust Machines. Really excited to kick off the show today. We have a very, very packed week of really good for Bitcoin news today. So, really, really excited to kick it off. Longstreet is commandeering Leather right now. Longstreet, how you doing, sir?
Good, Brandon. Good to see you, man. It's been quite the week. Did you block out 3 hours for all things good for Bitcoin this week? Because it was kind of monumental.
I didn't, but maybe I should have because I think we might. There's just so much to talk about this week. Where to even begin? Yeah.
Well, I see some good people on stage and listening in, so it's a good crowd so far.
Yeah, Rena's going to be joining us, and excited to hear from Rena. Actually, she just came up. Hey,
GM, what up, gang?
Rena, what a week!
What a week! What a great week for Bitcoin! What a great week for crypto! What a great week for America!
Well said.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick. I mean, for everyone who's been listening in the space for so long, it's just been like just getting kicked while you're down so much in the bear market, and then just to see this rapid turnaround so fast, like out of the blue, the SEC flips, and we get this Ethereum spot ETF approved. I mean, and then Eric Balchunas and James Seyfarth raising their odds for the Ethereum spot ETF, like it was 25. I mean, read between the lines, basically zero. And then they changed it to like 75% probably going to happen. So, I mean, that was just on Monday morning, Monday afternoon.
Yeah, it's been pretty incredible to see. I mean, even a week ago, right? We were, 2 weeks ago, I would say, was a very bleak, good for Bitcoin show, right? We almost wanted to rename it Bad for Bitcoin because of all the all the bad news that was happening, especially in the U.S. On the regulatory side, and to just see the complete 180 from just the entire U.S. government. Honestly, the past week has been crazy. So we're gonna get into that. Before we do, I want to just recap some product stuff that happened this week, especially for Leather. Longstreet would love for you to talk. Well, I was there as well, but would love for you to talk a little bit about Leather Lounge and the space that we did for Bitcoin Pizza Day.
Yeah, well, that was such a blast. So Wednesday was Pizza Day. So we recapped just to give a quick summary of what Bitcoin Pizza Day is all about. Leather, you crafted a really beautiful post honoring what Laszlo's significance and what was actually new to me and a lot of other people. Yes, he's famous for spending 10,000 Bitcoins to buy pizza, but what I learned from the research this week is that he was so revolutionary and innovative with his mining. So that's part of the reason he had such a healthy bag of Bitcoins back in the days is because he was just revolutionizing Bitcoin mining. So yeah, we opened up with a quick little highlight and a summary, and we had the gang from Ordinals Bot on, and Nick from Gamma showed up. So we covered a lot. It's honestly, I mean, usually we try to go for like a 50-minute show, and it was a full 90 minutes. And we had a lot of fun, just talking about pizza in general. But we really dove deep on a lot of origin stories. So we learned about Ordinals Bot, how they got started, how Bruffstar, he was in the Ethereum community, and then he got purple pilled onto Stacks because of Trevor, who then set up a call with him and Munib. And then he started doing just a bunch of stuff on Stacks with Satoshables, and he's done a lot with the bridging. So, and what was also good to highlight was how poised so many people in the Stacks ecosystem were. Because when ordinals came out, this concept of building on Bitcoin, like everyone in Stacks was just ready on it. And that's what we saw. We saw Gamma pivot super fast and build out ordinals infrastructure. And then Bruffstar did the same with his team, building out ordinals bot. So yeah, it was an epic show. I mean, really, we just got a lot of good origin stories, and it was a fun time. It was a very celebrational day. So, I mean, that on top of a great start. So yeah, that was a strong episode, episode 4 of the Leather Lounge.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to those. You know, every Wednesday, all the shows so far have been really good, and yeah, it was really nice to just kind of reflect on all the growth that's happened in the ordinal space, and especially for the three of us, you know, all of us that were on there, like you mentioned, right? Like Leather, Gamma, and Ordinals Bot all sort of came from the Stacks ecosystem. So we've all kind of been growing, you know, through this together, and it's just been a really was just a great opportunity for us to reflect on that. But Rena, as our resident Bitcoin miner, I'm curious your thoughts on Laszlo being the first publishing the first GPU miner back in the early days of Bitcoin.
I started doing GPU mining, I think in like 2014. So I was a little bit too late for Laszlo, but I'm so excited to see kind of where things are going with Bitcoin mining and how it's going to be even more accessible to folks. Because I don't know about you guys, but running Bitcoin Core software, not fun and not easy, especially if you're not a developer like me.
Yeah, I can definitely plus one that. I mean, I've been running an Umbrel node for a few years now, and I think that's like fairly user friendly, but
Totally.
still not like the average person. I don't think would be able to to put one of those together. And yeah, it's and then when you add mining on top of it, obviously that adds a bunch more complexity. So yeah, definitely. You know, optimizing UX is important with that stuff, and that's why we have apps like Leather, so you don't have to worry about that. You can just use Leather and interact with Bitcoin, and you have the economy right there for you. So, like we mentioned, we
True.
have yeah a lot of US topics to get into for this week, but uh, kind of on the same topic of Bitcoin mining, this actually just came out this morning, I believe, where Kenya had announced that they were partnering with Marathon on an $80 million Bitcoin mining venture. So Kenya is mining Bitcoin now, another large country to do that. And I'm just going to read a blurb here. So it says. Kenya signed a historic deal with Marathon Digital Holdings to utilize underutilized energy for Bitcoin mining, investing $80 million in digital infrastructure. This partnership aims to boost renewable energy utilization and optimization in Kenya, marking a significant step in Kenya's engagement with crypto and renewable energy technologies. So, really, I mean, just amazing news again, like for the week. And I think, more countries should probably get involved in this as well. But really cool to see Kenya starting to get on board.
Yeah, it really is. And it's, I think we're still dealing with the collateral damage of last cycle's narrative that Bitcoin is bad for the environment. Um, and we still need this concept to be accepted by a lot of people. So when we hear about Kenya adopting mining to help with uh, the underutilized power, it starts to spread the narrative that okay, there's a partnership here between Bitcoin mining and energy creation, and they go together. And maybe people need to rethink this narrative that Bitcoin is just bad for the environment. Yes, it's energy intensive, but that
Bitcoin
doesn't
is
mean it's
not bad
bad.
for the environment. As your resident
Yeah,
petroleum engineer, I will like stand by my words that Bitcoin is not bad for the environment at all. If anything,
Free.
I'll even say that Bitcoin does more for the environment because like let's take like my home state of Texas. Because of Bitcoin mining, instead of flaring gas from the oil fields and releasing it in the environment, we are recapturing it and using it for Bitcoin mining. And hey, I'm not releasing toxic things into the earth because I don't have to anymore because Bitcoin saved us all.
Yes.
And that
And then
Go
we
ahead.
oh, go
No,
ahead.
please.
Well, well, then there's also the ability to build out more robust infrastructure and to pay for clean energy infrastructure that with a plan that the systems can be paid off faster. So you can pay them off, you can build them out higher so that they can be max capacity to deal with, for example, like max, 110, 115-degree summers where everyone needs to blast their AC. You shut down the Bitcoin miners. And then the rest of the year, when you don't need the max capacity, you're mining Bitcoin, you're paying it off faster, you're promoting the use of clean energy.
I think that's like the exact way that people should be thinking about Bitcoin mining and like how it is symbiotic to the energy industry. There is a lot of instances where we produce excess energy. So think about like as every state is starting to come up with solar mandates, California is a good example of there will be a limited amount of fossil fuels available in California. So the grid has to take more energy production and consumption to kind of meet demand. When you have areas that have excess energy, kind of that could be created through Bitcoin mining, at least that can be tied back to the grid and kind of do on demand response for areas that don't produce as much. And so, like, I'm pretty bullish on like where Bitcoin mining is going to go in the future because you've basically created like a free market economy for energy, which has never been seen before because really it's viewed as like kind of localized by the few ERCOT operators. And now Bitcoin decided to kind of transform it into no, 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 energy should be free market too, just like the rest of America. And so it's like creating a new incentive structure of people are mine Bitcoin and realize that they have incentives to actually sell back to the grid for some of their excess energy they produce from mining, which is powerful.
Wow, well said.
Well, I'm pretty passionate about energy. Let me tell you about my oil days. I worked in the oil fields and it was not fun.
I'd love. Well, I know we have a busy show, but I do want to hear what's the arena origin stories with your passion for energy?
The Reno origin stories I learned about Bitcoin in 2012 while out on a rig in the Gulf of Mexico. I am a drilling engineer. My first jobs out of college was literally working in the middle of nowhere in West Texas, Permian Basin, Gulf of Mexico, and Venezuela, drilling oil. And in 2012, I was out with a rig mate, and the only thing we can do for entertainment out in the rigs is like watch TV. We have like no other option of like entertainment avenues. And we were watching The Good Wife. I don't know if you guys have seen this TV show. It's like a political drama from very early. And they had an episode about Bitcoin, and it basically was like, it was a litigation suit about who is Nakamoto and all of this like nonsense that was kind of funny but very accurate. And they had a line going, "Hey, you can mine magical internet money. Just use electricity or just use fossil fuels." And I'm just like, whoa, whoa, whoa! I produce a
Hmm.
physical commodity. I live out here on the rigs and actually like busting myself every day to produce energy so people in America can use phones and cars and TV. And I'm like, you're just telling me there's a new commodity that's not physical, and it blew my mind. And the more and more I learned about Bitcoin, when I got off the rigs, I actually dug into Bitcoin Core. I installed the client on my computer and started looking at the software. And within like a week, I decided that I would learn to mine Bitcoin and started mining. And from then on out, I've never looked back.
Wow,
So,
that's
so
incredible.
yeah, it's
That's
like
incredible.
one commodity for another commodity. Speaking of, ETH is now a commodity. So now we have three.
That's right. Yeah.
That's true, and yeah, I mean that's we can definitely throw it over to the next topic. And yeah, Longstreet kind of mentioned at the top of the show, the Bloomberg analysts, Eric Balchunas and James Safart, who are uh, just amazing follows on Twitter. If you don't follow them already, they literally are dropping alpha like every day. But at the beginning of this week, yeah, their projections, they were projecting about a 25% potentially approval rate. And then all of a sudden, I think it was on Tuesday, they posted and they're like, "Hey, we're hearing things, and actually, we're raising uh, our odds to 75%." And then yesterday, it got approved. So spot ETFs have been approved, and yeah, it's really just insane that this happened so quickly, and especially just the SEC's posture. That even just a couple weeks ago that we were talking about. It's just what happened, what happened behind the scenes. That really prompted all this change. It's been just incredible.
Yeah, yeah, truly. It was out of left field, but what we're seeing is that the politicians are really starting to understand, It's not just the Bitcoin maxis who are the vocal, majority or minority, however you want to quantify that. There's a lot of passionate people and more voters, especially younger voters, who have a position on crypto and specifically Bitcoin. And I think the message is finally starting to sink in. And probably junior staffers are, are starting to speak up and say, guys, I think we may have to change our stance here on crypto because we might lose some seats in the election. So yeah, it's just happening on every
Yeah,
front.
I think just to reflect back a little bit, I think it was over a year ago now, we saw, the really high profile case of Elizabeth Warren coming out, right, saying that she was building an anti-crypto army.
Mm.
And that was pretty much the stance of pretty much everybody on the Biden administration, was kind of just following that lead for a while. And then a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
like we talked about on the show, Donald Trump's campaign came out, basically almost embracing crypto and embracing Bitcoin, right? And I think that was just a huge wake up call for everybody else, to just be like, wow, there's a lot of people that really care about this. And you know, I think as well, like there's a lot of also just a lot of single issue voters that really care about crypto. And regardless of, Democrat or Republican or whoever, if they're supporting crypto, they're going to be the one that I'm going to vote for because I don't want to vote against my industry, right? Um, so I think that realization is really what happened over the past couple of weeks, and we're seeing the effects of that. Right? There's just so many positive news events that are happening.
Yeah. It's so true. Rena, you want to jump
Yeah,
in?
I feel like the framing of a single issue voter is something that the media kind of perceives us in a negative light. Like, I don't view that crypto is my single issue because if I think about crypto, it's my livelihood, it's the industry I work in, it is the income for my family. It provides means for my family to think about how we communicate, how our freedom of speech is protected. And it's like, I think narrowing us a single issue is like not okay because what we're creating is a movement from our industry of um, really broadening the horizons of every facet of our daily life and how we function as a community and how we are good citizens in our society. And I really hate when I see on media they're like, "Oh, those crypto people and how they vote." I'm like, it's not just about
Mhm.
financial incentive and gains, like it's a lot broader and I wish the media could understand that.
Well, perfectly said. And I think that narrative, it was bouncing around like for a week. But honestly, I mean, if you look at, like we said last week on the show too, crypto and Bitcoin, it's bipartisan now. And maybe I'll pass it to you, Brandon, to talk about Fit
Yeah,
21.
I want to just say hi to Shaylee real quick. I just brought her up. Hey Shaylee, I know you'll probably have a lot of thoughts this week, being kind of on the ground floor there in DC.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you can hear me okay. Kind of
Yeah,
cutting
yeah,
out.
you're
All
great.
good.
So, I would say, the crypto, there is a lobbying, so like there are a few groups that lobby for the crypto industry that have gained momentum over the past few years. And initially I think like 2015, during the Trump administration, we didn't have as many of these issues, I think, in crypto. There was back and forth, but there wasn't as much like hostility. And then recently, there has been a lot more hostility, obviously with Gary Gensler and such. But I will say, the crypto lobby, what's interesting is that the lobbyists realize that, like, if there are 50 million, if we tell these politicians there are 50 million voters that are crypto holders, some of them could be swing voters, and they're up for grabs, and you need to pay attention because 50 million is a big number for
Mhm.
the United States population. And so I think that was the tactic going into this election season, because if you don't tie it to elections, I think the lobbyists knew that nothing would get done, as it hasn't for like the past many years, and they've been working so hard on both sides. So it's just, so I think tying it to that, and then obviously Trump throwing in like his sort of vote of support for crypto probably took the Biden administration by surprise, and they were like, well, this is not the battle we want to take on at this moment. We want those voters. We want to make sure
Literally,
we're
Trump just saved the industry and like gave us the Hail Mary we needed.
yeah. Ryan Selkis at Mar-a-Lago, that tweet did something. And then, yeah, so I will say, having Nancy Pelosi, like that, her voting on with like other Democrats um, on Fit 121, I think it is, but Fit 21,
Mhm.
that was a big deal. That was a very big deal because that was not the kind of rhetoric we were getting from Democrats before.
Yeah, that definitely was the vote that was the event that really changed the tide. And just to quickly recap that, it was a very bipartisan vote. There was 279 to 136 in the House to pass that, and the legislation is now going to move to the Senate for further consideration. But so we'll see what happens there, and maybe we'll recap in a week or two once that happens. But yeah, it's just amazing that it is not a bipartisan issue, or it is not a partisan issue. It is a bipartisan issue. That both
Right.
people on both sides really care about.
Yeah, and I think people are realizing that America has been falling behind when we should be leaders in the space. So, yeah, hopefully we're now getting more in line with like the global
Yeah,
standards.
and I have to say, as much as I want to applaud, like I want to be excited about the 50 million crypto holders, I also am aware that like Chuck Schumer is in New York. Wall Street lines his pockets. Wall Street
Mhm.
lines the pockets of many politicians, and they are now involved in crypto, right? So did TradFi come in to save us in the end through their bigger lobbyists than our little lobbyists? Who knows? But like
Mm.
it was a joint effort, like TradFi plus crypto lobbyists all came in to swoop it to paint the picture, and the message was received.
Yeah, definitely. Financial incentive, and I mean, a lot of that also probably just started with the ETFs in general, right? Just people generally voting with their pockets. You saw how successful the ETFs were, and I mean, it's hard not to take notice, for how many people were putting money into those things. And again, like you said, there's of course a lot of people that are holding in self custody and on like apps like Coinbase, but um, yeah, just for the sheer amount of capital that went into the ETFs, it's hard to ignore that.
True.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these, a lot of what's been sort of asked for a really long time is just additional clarity, on how crypto is handled in the U.S. And yeah, to your point, a lot of companies have moved offshore. We have things like Tether, which are obviously huge in terms of stable coins, but are not are not really regulated in the U.S. at all. So we have all these like kind of euro dollar stable coins that are out there, and yeah, all of this innovation has been moving outside of the U.S. and Trust Machines is proudly headquartered, in the U.S. We're a U.S. company, but yeah, it's really great that there's just progress that's happening that's going to encourage some additional clarity and encourage companies to stay here and innovate here in the U.S.
Yeah, well said. It's been disappointing to see so many leave. And in the spirit of like decentralization, we want more than just Coinbase here. We need companies of every size. So maybe we'll keep bringing them back.
Yeah, Shaylee, I would love to. We missed you last week. I know you were really busy with everything that was happening with ETH DAO. If I maybe putting you on the spot a little bit, but I would love to hear a little bit on how that event went, and is if your event actually maybe helped change the tide a little bit in some of the perception in DC.
Oh, she just dropped down. She can't release too much
Yeah.
alpha.
Too much alpha ask, Brandon. You should know better.
Yeah, it's like if I told you I'd have to kill you kind of thing. Okay, I get it. All right.
Well, I think maybe it's a nice time to maybe talk about like what the ETH spot ETF approvals and how it's actually going to impact Bitcoin for the better. We are a show talking about Bitcoin for the good, or good for Bitcoin. And as you think about now kind of what this meant for ETH, I think it's going to kind of open up the floodgates for what this will eventually be the path for decentralization for Bitcoin L2s, how we scale Bitcoin, how we build more Bitcoin products that may have a TGE, and like really give them that clear divisive path of how to maintain their status in America and still be deemed a commodity. Because I think that's kind of the hot button topic of why this momentous ruling mattered more so than any other one, because now it's so many protocols have based their path to decentralization in the early days of what Ethereum had done, and it's a really good path for decentralization. And so as others think about launching tokens or whatever it may be, point system that evolves, there is a clear maybe framework on how to be supported in America if that's kind of the goal that you had. For me, it kind of like stands out per se. It's like I think you all know that I used to be at Binance US, so I did American listings of assets in exchange on the exchange, and the framework for a Howey test is pretty clear, and we've all felt comfortable on the paths for decentralization and how they align to a Howey test. But I think now that this is getting cemented into a commodities framework, it makes it even easier for people, or it makes it a little bit simpler for people to issue assets here in America.
Okay, so I wanted to ask for more clarity on that. So Fit 21, it ensures that digital assets are treated as commodities so long as the blockchain is, functional and decentralized. Is that right?
I believe so, but I don't want to like misquote without having read. I only read the highlights of the bill, so I don't want to misquote. But I believe that's exactly what it's kind of coming at, and the administration realizes that you need a more comprehensive framework, and it's not just like a yay or nay system.
Yeah. Well, I like that it specifies the importance of decentralization.
A hundred
And
percent, like that's exactly why all of us even came into this industry.
yes, yes. I have just a general question that you could probably answer. So, what about like new protocols that do want to achieve decentralization? I know we can't like there will never be a new Bitcoin, even though people are always asking like, "Oh, I missed Bitcoin. What's the new one?" Never will be another one. But for any L2s, what is the path to building out and becoming fully decentralized?
So I think that's kind of a loaded question, but the way, if I was to think about designing an L2 and structuring it, there's a few things that you would look at. First is who is basically creating the protocol from the get go. So, who are the core contributors and how do those core contributors decentralize over time? So, let's say I decided that I wanted to build the RENA L2 for Bitcoin. I might be a core contributor as the Labs Co. as the RENA L2 for Bitcoin. And I will have a set of employees that are working with me to kind of build this. But on my progressive path for decentralization, I would want to build a structure via a DAO or other governance module that eventually the foundation of that DAO will be governing the RENA L2 and not RENA Labs Co. The second thing I would be structuring as part of my path for decentralization is how non-core contributors can actually contribute to the protocol. So do you have the grants program or something um, in place that new engineers, community leads, whomever they are, have a way to contribute and meaningfully change the RENA L2 without the RENA Labs Co. being able to override it? Like those are two important aspects on a path for sufficient decentralization. At the end of the day, what it should feel like is that the RENA Labs Co. might have created the first software layer of the RENA L2. However, the RENA Labs Co. no longer is the governing body behind it, and that the protocol will live on without the RENA Labs Co. involvement, and the community is the guardian of the protocol. Like that's how it should be. And it took ETH many years to get there by setting up ancillary entities that were contributing to Ethereum, Consensus being one of the core, the Ethereum Foundation being the governing body. And by doing that over 10 years, Ethereum has achieved what it set out to say is that we are governed by a community. The Ethereum Foundation maintains the governance by the holders of Ether, and they cannot change anything about Ethereum or hard fork it without a governance vote. And that's kind of why they are that's kind of why this spot ETF approval is so momentous, because it laid out you can launch a protocol and decentralize and operate in America.
Wow. Thank
Damn,
you
I should have
for
been a
that
lawyer
clarity.
now that I think about it. Career change.
That was that was a great example. I think I like the proxy of talking about, yeah, if this one company shut down, would the network continue on, right? Thinking like, not to throw like Solana just as an example. I'm using Solana as an example. Not throwing them under the bus, but like if Solana Labs shut down tomorrow, like would Solana the protocol still continue to be around? So at least with something like Ethereum, probably less likely for a major meltdown compared to something like a Solana Labs.
Well, I'm just thinking about where I'm going to buy the next RENA meme coin.
One day you will see something anonymously released. It will not be tied to the name RENA. We will use another word and call it a day.
We need Runa tokens.
There we go.
We have Joe Bowden, and now we need Runa Shaw. I don't know. But yeah, so some other news that came out, Fit 21, I think, was the bigger kind of news story of the week. But also we had, we hear, especially on the Bitcoin Maxi side, talk about like CBDCs and banning CBDCs and things like that. And the House actually voted to block CBDCs this week as well. And that it was a little bit of a closer vote. It was 216 to 192. So slightly more divided, but now that is also moving to the Senate for consideration, and we'll see what happens there. But pretty amazing again that we have just this vote, that's going through to potentially ban CBDCs, which is what a lot of really hardcore Bitcoiners have been asking for a very long time.
Yeah, it's unreal. Like how many things that the uh, crypto Twitter and the Bitcoin community have been advocating for so long and beating the drum on. We're starting to see these things, ripple through. And I'm curious, how much of it is related to the election cycle. Maybe people are listening more, because I know the community has always been vocal about it. So I'm just curious why so much seems to be happening right now.
Yeah, I'm also curious. I wonder, has anybody checked Polymarket to see if people are voting on whether these things are going to make it through the Senate and ultimately get passed? And what what are the odds right now of Fit 21 and the CBDC surveillance bill actually going through and not getting vetoed or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm curious, but regardless of what the outcome is, the the fact that it is so prominent in the news and that it's happening is, I mean, we're gonna take the win right
Yeah, I
now.
agree. I mean, just the fact that these conversations are even happening at all, just reflecting on the progress that Bitcoin and the crypto industry has had just in 14 years or 15 years. Um, yeah, it's incredible. Like crypto is a major issue in politics now, for better or for worse. So yeah, the fact that these debates are happening is just amazing.
Really, Shaylee, we keep trying to get you back up, but I think you're stuck in listener limbo. Chris, I see you down there too. Love to hear from you.
Yeah.
All right, what else here? Let's see. Did we get through most of the
I
big
think we did
things?
get through most of the big things. Yeah. So if anybody wants to come up, add their two
I am.
cents on all the really, exciting news stories of the week. Um, we did see Donald Trump begin accepting donations in Bitcoin. So that is, I guess, another little story of the week. And that was also, uh, some stuff that kind of prompted, some of the change. I think, to Rena's point, Donald Trump kind of helped to push a lot of this over the edge, on the Democrat side. So, um, yeah, Chris,
But
welcome.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
also think
Oh,
so.
hey, welcome back, Shaylee.
Hello. I'm in the car picking up my daughter. But I also think that uh, these Wells notices that came out against like Uniswap and, you know, Consensus suing the SEC, like I feel like there was sort of a buildup to where, it was kind of like a decision needed to be made in one direction or the other. And thankfully it swung in our favor. But I think like there's still some outcomes that we have to look for in some of these trials that are going to take place and the litigation that's going on. But um, I think there was just like some momentum in the public, and it was not a good look for the U.S. government. It was like U.S. government versus crypto, and so you know, and companies, people were just getting a little too upset, and then Stand with Crypto from Coinbase raised like 87 million dollars, and then they did this big campaign for everyone to write to their Congress people, and I think that also had something to do with it. So there are all these little pieces that I think were building up to this week and some of the decisions that were made. And Fit 21 was like, the companies and organizations that signed it have been working at this for many years.
Yeah, to your point earlier, I think Selkis getting up on stage with Trump was like the the straw that broke the camel's back almost. And yeah,
Yeah, that was funny. And I mean, not funny, but it was just like a moment on crypto Twitter, right? And I was like, wow, this is real. Um, yeah. Just really interesting times. Let's see what happens. Well, I think now that things have cooled down, but I love Rena's point because I think the more exciting piece is that we have acceptance that it's okay to be a decentralized protocol. There's not just Bitcoin, there's also Ethereum, and there's room for other protocols to grow and decentralize in this country. I think that is the most important piece to take away from here.
Yeah, that's definitely
Yeah.
worth reiterating, that there is basically a path to decentralization legally, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. Longstreet, you're gonna add something.
Yeah. I was just thinking about this was just about a year ago that the book came out. It was called the Progressives Case for Bitcoin, I believe. I'm looking at the author right now. It came out a year ago. It was by Jason Meyer. So I heard I heard him on some of the podcasts making the rounds. And just to the point that, Bitcoin and crypto is bipartisan, he lays out really eloquently in the book, like so many of the points that Rena and Shaylee and we've been talking about today. It's not it's not like bipartisan. It's good for everyone, and everyone can find a reason to like Bitcoin. And it's been simplified down to talking points for so long. But I wonder if that was a significant part of turning the tide. And there's someone else who I heard years ago on Spaces and Clubhouse, and he's been hitting the ground. Shaylee, you probably know him. The name will come back to me in a second here, but he's been like bringing books. And one of the books that he brings around to people in Washington, D.C. is The Progressives Case for Bitcoin. So I like to think that, people who have the passion for Bitcoin and for articulating it and writing books about it and spreading the good word, that is a huge part of the catalyst. And so maybe now, maybe that had a contribution.
Yeah, I agree. And here's the thing is I've actually, because I live in DC, I happen to talk to Congress people about, you know, hey, I'm a mom of two. I've had a job in crypto for many years. I love this technology, and this is why. I worked in financial inclusion. I mean, they need to hear these stories in aggregate with lots of companies before they make decisions, right? Because once you do put something into law, then it could hurt or harm people many years down the line, as we're seeing with the Howey test being applied to the crypto industry, and it doesn't always work, right? So, um, I get that they have to take their time, but this hostility hasn't been good. And I do think now we can focus on consumer apps and driving adoption, because one of the things that is interesting about crypto versus AI, and I hate that they're compared, but everyone's like, oh, crypto's so difficult to understand. It's decentralized, it can be used anywhere, it's this magic internet money, and people just didn't understand it. It was too complicated. And then the other thing is, we didn't do a good job because we've invested in so much infrastructure. But, like, where are the amazing, beautiful consumer apps, right? There aren't that many. Um, the good thing is, Farcaster is being used widely in the Web3 social space. That got 150 million funding round closed this week, I believe, which was fantastic to see. So we're seeing like the decentralized social media kind of narrative take shape and build momentum. And then, I think Leather Wallet is obviously beautiful. Uh, and I can't wait till we launch mobile, because I think that's going to be fantastic for users. But I think we need to do more and more things to make it easy and accessible for end users, so that we can show, not tell, people, and they don't have to think about it, right? Um, so I think
Yeah.
that's been one of the hardest parts of, you know, explaining things in DC, has been like the lack of the ability to like show. Okay, I'm going to show you my like NFT on my phone. Um, explaining the story is difficult, especially when many of the people that you're explaining it to are of a certain age range. And I'm not saying that they don't get it, because some of them are really deep in the rabbit hole and understand the nuances, but it is difficult with explaining it to some folks.
Yeah, there's a huge learning curve, and we've all undergone it. And what you were talking about with how far we have to go for like mass adoption, basically, reminded me of the episode we had a couple weeks ago, episode 3 of Leather Lounge with Teleport DAO, because they're an interoperability protocol, and through like trust minimized protocols, they do a lot of stuff on the back end, so you can do things, cross chain. And we were talking about what the future 1 to 3 years is going to look like, and they made this point that it needs to be a seamless experience. Most people aren't going to actually realize that there's anything like quote unquote crypto or blockchain happening. It'll just be smooth experiences, just like when we use the internet. I'm not thinking about you know HTTP and TCP/IP and all this stuff. It just works.
Totally. Yeah, it's technology fading into the background. Yeah, that's been a focus, and maybe it's a good time to throw it over to CMP. I know he's been waiting patiently, but he also is trying to help to make things a little bit easier for folks with no code clarity. So CMP, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I saw Trust Machines, Rena, and Leather, and Brandon. I'm like, nope, I'm definitely gonna stop what I'm doing and I'm gonna tune in off top. Got all the all stars. So definitely loved Rena's take regarding everything. I'm a little bit of a skeptic still because I know America at its root, like there's so many nuances. So I'm waiting for things to become like official. No one can like reverse it. No one can undo it, and then my happy will probably show. But until then, I'm just cautiously, carefully watching because there have been so many false starts. I think with America from this standpoint, I think our industry has been crying out for regulation, for frameworks for years, well before BlackRock, well before all of the big wigs really got into it. So the fact that they're into it, apparently the money markets are changing policy or they're influencing policy within this, and we can kind of see that in real time. But I think it could be a net win, but as some of the maxis would say, Bitcoin doesn't need America. But the industry in and of itself, if it's trying to exist and thrive in America, we need all participants to play ball, from regulators, policymakers, miners, builders, developers. We need everyone's participation in order for this to work, which is kind of like a catch 22 of it all. But to the point brought up about abstracting complexity and educating, that's paramount. That's the foundation of everything. So for us at No Code Clarity, that's one thing that we're attempting to do. Like, it's one thing for people to understand that you can accept Bitcoin as a form of payment. You can buy Bitcoin, hold it until kingdom come, and then there's some appreciation that will take place due to deflationary things versus inflationary environments with fiat currency. It's another thing for people to get the paradigm understood that, wait a minute, this is actually the base layer of an application. I can build on Bitcoin. What the heck? What does that look like? And then they dive into BitScript or MiniScript and they're like, well, it's kind of complex. Clarity seems cool. What I see is what I get, but I'm not technical. So how can I fix that problem? And that's where with No Code Clarity, we're looking at the full life cycle of a DApp. You need a front end, you need back end data management, and then obviously you need to deploy a smart contract. What if you can do all of that leveraging AI in a multimodal environment? I can talk it out and then the app is made. I can test it and then I can deploy on testnet and mainnet. What would that look like? I could prompt it like I do chat GPT and then it's built out. So literally from the builder side all the way to the user side, since we're at this inflection point, we need to be mindful that there is so much that still is being learned as we go. Before I continue on with the ramble, I'll end it here. and say that we've jumped off of the ledge roughly 15 years ago, and we've begun building the plane while we're in midair, and the plane is now starting to fly. Now we're integrating some really cool things as an industry to make sure that this plane takes off and goes to the moon as a rocket ship. So a lot of transformation in the midst of it, but I think we'll get there. Long story short.
I love that. I appreciate your kind of more realist take on a lot of the progress that's happened this week, and it's certainly progress, but yeah, it's not final, right? Like these bills, these Fit 21 bills, and the CBDC kind of surveillance bill, they've only passed the House, right? They haven't passed everything, so they could very easily not go through if they get vetoed or yeah, don't clear the Senate. And we've also seen so much regulation through enforcement happening in the industry. So I'm really curious, now that we've seen a lot of tides kind of shift in the past week or two, are we going to stop seeing some of these Wells notices, going out continuously to these big, crypto companies that are out there? Are we even potentially going to see, some of these cases get dropped potentially, now that there's been kind of a shift in sentiment overall? So we'll see. I guess we'll have to just kind of watch what they do and not what they say, and just keep reporting on the progress there.
Yeah, one last thing I wanted to mention. There's been a lot of work done from lawyers that I know in New York and all over for years before we had this moment. So, a little bit of a story on my side. Born and raised in Wisconsin, lived all over, but Milwaukee, Wisconsin is home, hometown rather. And I was working with a representative to create a regulatory sandbox bill for Web3 companies that wanted to build on Bitcoin without having to worry about a money transmitter license, which could cost, from New York standpoint, at least $1 million, and in other states it varies. But if you're a pre-seed or seed level startup, you're looking at funding, and it's like, well, I want to operate, but I don't know if I'm going to step on anyone's toes at the SEC. And this is obviously like 2 years ago. So we really didn't know what kind of gray area for most builders that they were stepping into. Regulatory sandboxes would have proven to been a good opportunity, and there are examples. I believe Arizona, Hawaii, Wyoming, of course, is a darling of Web3, etc. But um, as we got the bill drafted, there was some nuance, some political play, and it got stalled. But now, come to find out, the state of Wisconsin is holding $100 million worth of BlackRock ETF Bitcoin, plus stock from Coinbase, plus stock from MicroStrategies, plus miners who are trading on the stock market. So there's truly a change that is happening. And I think for people who sit on the side of policy and law, this is a time to just put pedal to the metal. Even to the point that I brought up, we're actually pushing this bill to try and actually get it through now. So it's time. Even as a realist in this environment, I'm definitely an opportunist still, and I can see that the opportunity is ripe for this to potentially happen.
I love that. Yeah, it definitely does feel like the right time to yeah, just continue to push forward. The momentum has basically started. The flywheel is starting to spin. And it's up to us to, keep that flywheel going, right? Keep the momentum going. And yeah, I love that. And we obviously there's been a lot of progress kind of on the federal level, but on the local level as well, there's still just so much that can be done. So I really love to hear all the work that you're doing, and yeah, thank you for coming up and sharing a little bit more about that. That's awesome. I know Rena had to drop. Obviously, we're really appreciative that she came up. Love whenever Rena can join. But Longstreet or Shaylee, do you have anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Shaylee?
I guess let's just have a good weekend, everyone. And for those of you here, Monday might be a holiday for you. I hope you enjoy the sun and hang out with family and friends. That's all.
Yeah, thank you to
Nice. Yeah.
everybody that serves in the U.S. That's why we have Monday off for anybody that gets to celebrate a nice 3-day weekend. have a great 3-day weekend. Long Street, I don't know if you'll be celebrating Memorial Day with us in the U.S., but have a good
It's
weekend as anyway.
it's funny now being in France. Like, first of all, May in France, like nothing gets done here because it's full of holidays. So it's like it's hilarious how many vacation days are in France here. But I kind of get to choose. I either like get to have more holidays because I can do both, or I just get to work more because I choose to not take the holiday. 'Cause like, oh, it's not a holiday in America. I'm going to work. Oh, it's not a holiday in France. I'm going to work. So I don't know. It's another day, but the grass is green and always can be touched. So that's and I like this concept, that we all have about dollar cost averaging, right? But I love when I see people on the thread talking about like DCAing your health, your food, whatever it is, like always, always just DCAing into all the good parts of your life. So
Yeah, I love that. In the U.S., we just like the culture is to just work yourself into the ground. Meanwhile, in Europe, you have people taking like a month off, on holiday every year. Uh,
it's like doors close down like for an hour and a half in the middle of the day. So you have like a small window to do it in the morning or a small window to do it in the afternoon. But yeah, it is a thing. So you have to plan. You can't just be out somewhere at like, and then at 1 o'clock want to go buy some food, you know. But it's a good balance because the French especially, like they're gonna fight to protect their their hours.
Absolutely. Well, it seems like a good place to end it. Really appreciative to everybody that came up. CMP, thanks for coming up, and everybody for listening. Thank you so much. We're just ending, but I just saw Stuart joined in the audience. Shout out to the Welsh 100-day giveaway that Leather is participating in. That was a ton of fun. Also this week, so looking forward to week 2 of that. Next week, obviously. And if you'd like to join us in Club Bitcoin, I pinned to the top there. It's our exclusive home on Console DAO. Feel free to continue the conversation there in Console. And we will see you next week. Looking forward to the Leather Lounge next Wednesday. And we are here every Friday at noon Pacific. So, yeah, have a great week, everybody. Thank you for listening. We record Good for Bitcoin live every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on X. Please follow us at Trust Machines Co. if you would like to listen and engage with us live. Visit us at trustmachines.co for all the latest Bitcoin news. We'll see you next week.